I'd like to talk about how uncomfortable grief is for a lot of people, not just the griever, but the people who interact with people that are grieving. So grief is really intense for the first couple of years for people. It's not a 3-week thing. It's a thing that lasts for some people years. And they're very, very sensitive, as what people say to them and how they say it triggers a lot of emotional discomfort. And the person who's speaking to the griever doesn't intend that. They don't know how to act. So I thought I'd make this little video to explain some of the things that people shouldn't say. The biggest things that people do is they compare. They compare someone else's loss to the person who just had a loss. Oh, I had a friend that lost their father. Oh, when I lost my mother. The thing is to just let the person talk about the person that they lost and give that person that time, not to put anybody else in the mix, not a pet, not a friend, not a this person or that, just that person's loss, and that's it for that time. The other thing is the questions that people ask. So now with the recent COVID loss, a lot of people will ask questions, well, did they have any underlying conditions? Did they get vaccinated? These questions are a little insulting to people who just had a loss. They lost their person, whether they had underlying conditions or not. Their person died. The right thing to do is to text them, check on them. Some people like to be text once a month on the anniversary of the death. So widows and widowers count the time. So if your person died on the 15th of the month of January, then every month on the 15th, that person's going to feel, oh, it's a month, oh, it's 4 months, oh, it's 6 months without them, because they've never lived without them before. So this becomes an anniversary to them until the years pass, and then that date kind of passes. But it's always remembered. Question that a lot of people ask is for suicide survivors. They might ask something like, did they leave a note? Were they depressed? Like, these are personal questions that you're asking someone. Acquaintances do this. You'll meet someone in the store and they might get into a conversation and they'll say, well, maybe his father could get it for him. And then the widow might say, well, his father died. And they'll say, well, oh my goodness, how did you lose your husband? They might say COVID, or they might say suicide. And here a stranger might turn around and say, oh, did you know that he was going to die? Like, the questions are so intrusive to the person who's going through the loss. A lot of suicide losses, the person does have a fight with them before they kill themselves. My belief on this is that if I have a fight with you, you're not going to grieve me. You're going to be glad that I killed myself. And of course, that's not true. It's just a thought of someone who's not thinking straight. In order to commit suicide, they're not thinking straight. They're not reaching out to someone that might help them. They're not thinking about who's going to find them. They're not thinking about their family. They think they're a burden, and they think they're going to relieve their family of this burden. But that, of course, is not true. The family is so burdened by the pain, and they live with it for years, and it changes everything in their life. It doesn't relieve them. It gives them more of a burden. So the questions and the things that people say, I just thought I would just clarify that a little bit, so that when you meet someone and you want to be there for them, it's better to encourage them and say things like, is there anything I could do for you? And in the beginning of loss, people who brought me fruit baskets during my loss, or who made meals for us, that was very helpful, because I was so exhausted, I didn't have the desire to cook. And then as time goes on, you get on your feet, but you're still grieving. So this is a misconception. If someone goes to work and they have their makeup on, if it's a woman or a man who shaves, that they're good, they're done with their grief. And it's not true. It's just that they know that they have responsibilities and they take care of themselves and their hygiene, but it doesn't mean that they're past their loss. It just means they're doing what they need to do to pay their bills. And finish their responsibilities, especially if they have a family. For me, I had to support my children, so they have to go out to work, so they have to put themselves together. But it doesn't mean that in any way that they're over their grief. I hope this helps you in the future when you're interacting with someone with loss, and maybe it'll make you think before you say something like, were they wearing a mask? These are things like you don't want to ask someone. Let them speak. Let them share with you what they want to share with you. And try not to ask too many questions. Thanks. I hope this helps.